Our next transformation is the reflection. As you can see in exploration 4, there's just a very subtle difference between the different ways that you can change the reflections. In our first example, you'll see that the negative sign is outside the parent function of x squared, and that's directly affecting the y values. Versus in the next example, you'll see that the negative sign is actually contained within the x itself. It directly affects the x value. Okay, let's take a look at how those reflections occur. In our graph, we have y equals x squared, and if we put the negative sign directly outside the parent function itself, it shows us it is a reflection across the x-axis. We can see that the y values are what's being affected, so what used to be positive now becomes negative. So that's why it's a reflection across the x-axis. Now if we look at our next case, y equals the square root of x, if the negative is put directly within the function itself, it's going to affect the x values. Okay, so if it affects the x values, then what changes are the x values. It reflects across the y-axis. So anything that was a positive x value now becomes a negative x value. Okay, so those are our two types of transformations. One thing that I also wanted to highlight was if you look at cell 5, you see y equals negative x squared. How is that different from cell 2 of y equals negative x squared? Well, here in cell 2, the negative is directly outside the parent function, so that affects the y value. It's a reflection across the x-axis. But in cell 5, if the negative is directly contained within the function itself, then that's going to be a reflection across the y-axis. However, that's the exact same graph. As we take a look at the points on the graph, if we were reflecting across the y-axis, then, if we had the point negative 1, 1, then that would get reflected over to 1, 1. So that's why it's showing us the exact same graph as y equals x squared. It's just a mirror image of itself. Okay. All right, so let's summarize everything. Go back to our worksheet. And we're basically saying now that the graph of y equals negative f of x is a transformation. It's a reflection across the x-axis. And if you have the negative contained within the function itself, so y equals f of negative x, it's a reflection across the y-axis. Okay? And that's it.